What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 75 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast. As you can see right now, we have a special guest, Yianni. Man, it's pretty special when you get to be known by just one name. What do you have to say about that?
I know. I lucked out with a really unique first name and a really hard to pronounce last name. So, I lucked out there. And then people ran with it.
So, what do you say about these recent allegations that your name is actually John, and not Yianni?
Hey, I'm going to move for a second for you.
Okay, go ahead. All right, we're watching Yianni. He's going inside his house. Hopefully no one saw your address that's going to be a stalker or something.
Man, I didn't even think about that. See,
that would not be
questions I need to consider more often.
I didn't see your address, so I think we're good to go. Yeah, actually, there was just this recent interview at the UFC headquarters in Las Vegas. And so someone told me about this and then sent me the screenshots. But they were interviewing like this, and someone did not tell them to don't do this one room. And they had a video of this one room, and it had all of the fighters' contract status on the wall. So, like, who's got one fight left, who's got 2 fights left. And it was all up on the wall, and people screenshotted it, and now they have it, Yeah. But I don't think anyone saw your address, so I think we're good.
That's actually really crazy, though. You probably use that on people.
It's hugely valuable information, especially for other promoters and whatnot. Yeah. I was blown away that it actually got out there. Okay, so let's go, Yianni. I don't know how much people know about you. Your dad was a Division III college wrestler who loves wrestling. So I'm assuming you started young. Tell us about the start.
Yeah, so it's funny. Like my dad, after college for a couple of years, he started off helping out at he wrestled at RIT, is Rochester Institute of Technology.
Yep.
And he was like helping out, assistant coaching. He was there when Matt Hamill was there, and he was like Matt Hamill.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Wait, but Matt Hamill's pretty damn big, and your dad is not that big.
Not big. He just it was just. Oh man. He used to really beat up the guys on the team, so they would just have my dad wrestle with him. They're like, oh, like whatever.
That's funny.
But okay, so I bring that up because my dad literally has pictures of me when I'm, barely able to sit up, propped up against the wall. So I've been around it my whole life, but I started wrestling myself when I was around 5. And then, the first couple of years, you're just kind of doing it to do it. You learn your skills and whatever. And then I got really serious, when I was maybe 10.
So there's nothing significant about the early years at all?
No, funny story. So I remember when I was like 10, this is when I started getting serious. My dad was like, listen, you have the potential. You could be really good when you're older. And he's like, but you got to make a lot of sacrifice. You got to do all this stuff. And he's like, but in all seriousness, I really think one day you could be a world champion or Olympic champion someday. And when you're 10, you have no idea what that means,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's are you willing to you might have to not hang out with your friends as much. You might miss out.
Wait, he's telling you this at 10 years old?
10 years old.
That's funny.
Think you're willing to do that? And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds so cool to be that good. And I was like, I don't care if I don't get to hang out with my friends as much, whatever. And then he's like, all right, you said it, not me. And after that, we got really serious, and it was good because
so wait, Yianni, 10, that's 5th grade, 4th grade?
Yeah, I was
somewhere around there.
Grade, yeah.
So what at that time, I met me and you go back. I met you, we think, when you were going into 8th grade, when I came to play the 2011 Disc Golf World Championships in Rochester. So before that, that was at G2. Before that, say 4th, 5th grade, is there a club in Rochester you guys go to, or is it just you and your dad training in your garage?
So it started out the Hilton Red Dogs, youth practices, the little kid club that my high school had. And then, my dad was like, all right, enough of this. I want to train you the way I want to train you. So we set up, it started in my basement. We moved into my garage, and it was literally just a 20-foot by 20-foot mat. It was me and, my little brother, obviously, and then a couple other kids that wrestled with us, my buddy Louis Dupre and his whole family, a bunch of them. And, we were just training. My dad studied a lot of European wrestling film and then would try and replicate it.
Wait, time out. We're at this point in time, okay, when you're when you're 4th or 5th grade, this is like 2008. Where is he getting this European wrestling film?
YouTube.
It existed then?
Oh, yeah, we'd YouTube. I'm telling you, we would do it for like an hour. We'd sit there. I'd be 10 years old. Maybe I was 12 at that point. And we would sit there and we'd watch Mavle Batirov, like Bessie Kudakov, both Saitev brothers. We'd watch, who's the Cuban?
Wait,
Garzón.
Garzón,
like,
yep.
All these weights. Mostly from like 60 to 86, like the middle weight. So like mostly 65 and 74, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd watch these guys, and we'd be like, look at that knee pull. Like, from Mavle Batirov, and like the best knee pull I'd ever seen. And I would go into practice, and we'd be like, all right, today we're working knee pulls. Like, Jan, show him what you saw. And I'd like go and do it. And he'd be like, all right, we're going to drill that. And he'd be like, keep drilling it. And we just drilled knee pulls for however long. And then, we'd go on to the next thing. And, my dad was really big on the technical side and developing skill.
Yep.
So we spent a lot of time when I was younger. Pretty much like our practices for the most part would be, an hour to an hour and a half of skill. And then, maybe anywhere like about 30 minutes of live wrestling.
Okay.
And my dad's philosophy was that we're going to be the best wrestlers. We might not be the strongest or the fastest, but we're going to be the most skilled. And then we got in shape by wrestling live. So this way we'd be in good enough shape to wrestle. And, we could wrestle a full match and wrestle hard. And then we have good skill.
Nice. Okay. So, man, that's really interesting. I remember now, obviously I wrestled in the Olympics 2008. And I remember in 2007 trying to watch a whole bunch of international. And somehow I got some CDs or DVDs, and it would actually like come up and you have to like click a certain button to watch a certain match. That's why I'm like, man, in 07, 08, 09, it was hard. It wasn't like today where you could just watch it places. It was a real challenge to find serious film on people.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was committed, so
he's a wizard.
he's a really smart guy. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's really good about just like figuring stuff out. It's like, like he would, even if it was one match, even if we could only find like the 2006 World Championships finals, we'd be like, all right, we got these, 8 matches to work with. Like, let's see what all of these guys are really good at.
Yeah.
Or, so one thing would be like, all right, hey, they've all got this great underhook. Like, you got to get better underhook. Or it would be like, what does this guy do that makes him better than everybody else? And they would talk about, like, Saitev. Like, Saitev had this unfathomable variety of offense where he could pretty much score on you from anywhere.
I was going to say, what are you going to say that Saitev was good at? Because he was, like, good at all kinds of stuff.
That was my dad's, like, thing with me. He was like, I want you to be like that where you can score on anybody from anywhere. And then if one guy, so like, this is still the philosophy from me. So say I'm wrestling, a guy, and this guy has the best single leg in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, and he's got the best single leg defense in the world. Well, then I got to shoot a high crotch or take an arm drag or an underhook. And then I've got to be able to defend single leg or keep him off single leg, force him to high crotch. And now it's not his best position. And by that thought process, I'm better than him in all of those other positions.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's start working through your wrestling career. And I know a little bit of it. So, and I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but I know I've said this publicly a few times. I came to work out with you in teacher camp, and I rolled with you a little bit in 2011. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And I remember thinking afterwards, like, dude, am I getting old, or was that kid like really good or something? Like, what the hell was going on there? That was weird. And so it happens you're pretty good. I wasn't getting that old that fast in 2011. So and then I started following you after that. And so when was your first high level national success? 'Cause I think it was either Super 32 or UWW Cadets.
Super 32.
Okay. Who'd you beat?
In the finals, I wrestled Gage Curry, who. He was like a top 10 or top 5 guy at 106 at the time. I was a little guy. I was a 106 pounder. And I remember, like, when I was a little kid, Super 32 was, like, the biggest deal to me. Even in middle school, this is a funny little tidbit. When I was in 8th grade at Super 32 middle school, I won, and then Dayton Fix took second, and Vito Aruja took third.
In your bracket?
And it was middle school 100.
Oh, dang.
And that was, like, I remember I would go there and then watch the high school, and I was like, man, the high school guys are so good. And I was just really looking forward to it. And then I won that year, and I was like, huh. That's pretty cool.
Wow. Wait, okay, that's kind of significant. So you beat Dayton Fix in 8th grade. Did you also wrestle him in the high school division?
I wrestled Vito in the semis, and then Dayton in the finals in 8th grade. And then my sophomore year, I wrestled Dayton again in the finals of the high school division.
Okay. I remember that. So were those the only 2 times you wrestled Dayton or no?
Then that same year at Flow Nationals, he beat me in overtime.
Oh, okay. So I remember that match for sure.
And then after that, he kind of stayed that size, and I kept getting bigger. We never wrestled again. He stayed around 120, 125, and then I kept growing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember thinking there's no way Dayton's going to be able to make 55 kilos, or 57 now. I was 57, and somehow he is not grown in the last 4 years, and he still makes that weight class.
He's just not afraid to cut some weight. He's really tough. I respect it because he's definitely big for the weight, and he's willing to do it, and he wrestles really well, off the scale and stuff.
Well, it's tough, yeah. You know what? I'm going to ask you a tough question about some Russians because I've been talking about this since you saw the test that came out yesterday.
The what?
The test. Did you see it?
No, what's that?
Oh, what are you hiding off social media the last day? Well, Artur Taymazov now tested positive for his second Olympic gold medal. So he's now at 2 Olympic gold medals stripped for him. So, and I'm going to bring this back in multiple ways. But so I was thinking obviously our U.S. team is better than it's been ever. And I'm sure it's not just one factor. I'm sure there's many factors that have to do with us having a lot more success than we used to have. But, I think there's a possibility that, so many of those guys have now tested positive in 08 and 12. I think 2 of my guys in my bracket in 08 tested positive. And now I think they know. People are testing them. They're on them. Are they off the steroids? Is that one of the many reasons that we're having more success at the international level?
So I don't know that they're totally off it because you always hear stuff and people get good at hiding it and stuff. But I definitely think that that's part of it because I remember Kudikov, Vesey Kudikov used to always complain. He'd be like, these guys keep taking steroids, and he kept losing these guys that were juicing or whatever they were doing. They were doping, juicing.
Because he was one of the few people who kind of, I don't want to say publicly refused to do it.
Yeah, he was really outspoken against it.
Yes.
And I definitely think that's part of it, and I've actually, if you talk to them, they'll tell you, in America, you guys have great, big, huge gyms, and you have great facilities and great life, and, our guys took steroids, so that made it easy.
I love the rationalization.
I've heard people say that before, so I think, I'm not saying that they all cheat, and I'm not saying that, the guys that are wrestling at the World Championships, I'm not saying, these guys are cheaters and these guys aren't, but I think that, sometimes, you get pressures from whoever, your coach or the government or whatever it is, and you're just okay, I don't want to get in trouble. And I think that's what happens to some of them, and then
have you watched Icarus?
Yes.
Yeah, and that pretty much states that it was government sponsored, and that's what I knew certain people were cheating, but then when you see it was this big massive scheme, and they were pulling the bottles out and changing the tops. It's holy crap.
Yeah, it's crazy, and a lot of it too. I've heard, I can't confirm or deny this, but I've heard sometimes it gets threatening. So
really.
I don't always blame him because I think sometimes it's you're caught between a rock and a hard place where it's you can do this thing or you can get in a lot of really big trouble a different way. So I think they're all right,
yeah.
Call me a cheater. I'd rather have that than whatever my other option is.
For sure. Okay.
Crazy.
So here's the other thing I was going to bring up. You just brought up Dayton cutting a lot of weight. Well, but the obvious is the next weight class up is 143, and if you put him next to you, he's way smaller than you. And so one of the things I bring up, and now we're lucky enough to have 10 weight classes. Obviously not in Olympic years, but in non-Olympic years, we're lucky to have 10 weight classes. But for a long period, we were stuck with 6 or 7 weight classes. And then if you go all the way back farther, there was 10 weight classes again. I bring up someone like John Smith. John Smith was a 136-pounder.
He would have been a tweener now.
He would have been a tweener. So could he have the same amount of success if he has to go up or down? And obviously we don't know the answer to that. But so now when we're talking about our success versus the Russians, is the fact that the weight classes are spread out, is that helping us? Does that hurt us? Now I feel like we have more depth than we did a few years back. How do you feel about the spread of the weight classes and then the fact that it's down to 6 for the Olympics?
I definitely think the increase in number of weight classes is very beneficial for us, especially because like when they added 79 and 92, it was like we couldn't have handpicked it better. It worked great. Where, I think that's definitely a big part of it because now you have guys who, like Kyle, Dake, and David Taylor, who hadn't made a team before, and now they get to the right weight class for them and world champs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, did you ever watch my, I don't know if you watched, but it wouldn't have been watch, it was audio only. When I was doing the podcast with Tommy before I started this one with Matt, we did a top 10 American wrestlers of all time. And I put Kyle Dake on my list despite the fact that he never made a team. And my argument was that he doesn't have a weight class. And if he has a weight class, he might be a world champion. But we don't know because he's behind arguably the greatest American of all time. And he's stuck there. And now he gets his weight class, he wins the world title. And
unscored upon.
Unscored upon. So, I love that my thesis was proven true because, when you have less weight classes, it's really tough to make teams, especially when you got, if you look at our 74-86 and it's, Dieringer, Dake, Burroughs, Cox, Taylor, it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's super deep. And I definitely think more weight classes, I think, what do I know? But I think it's better. And the point of, I think part of the reason they were talking about dropping wrestling is that there's not as many different countries getting medals.
Yeah.
And I think if you add weight classes, you're giving different countries more opportunities to medal. You know what I mean? Because when there's only 6, there's only 24 medals up for grabs in freestyle. And, you add those weight classes, there's more available medals. You start giving guys opportunities to fill in at different weight classes. So I think that, part of the IOC's problem with wrestling was that, it's a lot of the same countries. If you added weight classes, there'd be more opportunities and you'd start seeing maybe more countries getting medals that you might not see as frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I got ADHD. I veered way off topic. We're talking about you. So you win Super 32 in 8th grade. You win it as a freshman. And so did you make your first cadet world team? Was it after your freshman year or after your sophomore year?
After my sophomore year.
After your sophomore year. You made it. And we just talked about this, but I'm blanking again. Who did you beat in the finals?
Vito.
Oh, Vito. Yes, we just talked about this 2 days ago.
Which is funny. So that year, me and Vito were training together, and I literally stayed at his house to train with him less than 2 weeks before the cadet trials, and we were going the same weight. And I was like,
was it awkward?
No, we were just what are we going to do if we wrestle? And Vito's we won't wrestle. I don't know, one of us will lose, maybe. And I was like, yeah, who knows? And then we wrestled in the finals, and we were just best guy wins, whatever happens. And, he's still, one of my best friends to this day, so.
Do you guys live together?
Yeah. We shared a room for the first semester.
Oh, my God, that had to be tough.
That was, living with Vito is really funny. He's definitely he's a character, but, yeah, we're super close, so it worked out fine, Yeah. And then now we each have our own room, which is good.
Yeah, that is funny. Hey, I forgot to intro this. So, guys, one of the reasons Yianni and I are talking right now, besides the fact that he's one of the biggest personalities in wrestling, is that he was here in Milwaukee. He did a camp for us 2 days ago. I wanted to get him on the podcast while I had him here, and then your flight got canceled, and then your flight got changed, and then, so then we did this.
Yeah.
Just FYI. Okay, so you make the first cadet world team after your sophomore year, and do you win bronze? You win gold right away? Gold right away.
Yeah, right out the gate.
So tell us about that experience going to the Cadet World Championships. I know I've heard you tell some funny stories about it. What was that like? Because especially, I think there's this thing which the way I think is everything's a balance. But some people, like your dad, has been building up. Why have you watched all this film now for, by this point, 8 years or whatever, right? And sometimes when people do that, right, it's great for a learning experience, but then sometimes all of a sudden you get there, you say, oh my God, my dad's been having me watch all this film. Oh my gosh, that guy's from this country. How am I going to beat him? I've been watching those guys. And because for me, when I first started taking my AWA guys to national tournaments, they'd be like, oh my God, that's Dayton Fix. Oh my God, that's Yianni. And I'm like, you little effers, stop putting people on a pedestal. You can take any one of them out. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, I think, my thought process with it, part of it is the Team USA coaches do a great job, if it's they're tricking you into thinking that, you're the best guy in the world. But I think a big part of it too is that even in my own head, I was stealing moves from all of these guys. So like perfect world, I was the best. I had the best skills from all of them. So it was like I stole all their moves, kind of, and like it's still cool though. Like I remember I had Russia in the semis, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like this one's gonna be good. And it was one of those Russians that
who was it? Do you know? Do you remember?
Soslan Gushikov. He wasn't honestly like he ended up being nothing. But I remember Vito went to train in Alusa, and he was at the Russian national team camp, and he said how all of the guys were like bragging because he was this like 20 or 21-year-old guy wrestling cadets to like kill everybody at cadets. So Vito was texting me and was like, hey, like beat this dude up, like they all think he's the man. And I was like, okay.
That's too funny.
And it was a close match, and I was winning by 2, and I kind of threw him at the end of the match to like seal it. But that was a really exciting one, and I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling pretty good about myself after that because it was the first like Russian I had wrestled, So I was like, man, that was really cool, getting that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so at what point? And I, so I heard your Q&A with our kids yesterday, and you said there was really no doubt or whatever that you were going to Cornell. At what point did you start training down there or traveling down there, or is that before this? Is that after this, or where along the way is that?
So I would go up every once in a while, a little bit my freshman year, a little bit my sophomore year. But it's hard because I was little, so I couldn't really wrestle with anybody. And then my sophomore year, I was like big enough where I could train with guys, but once the season starts, you're not really supposed to be there, so I wouldn't go. And then I remember after Dayton beat me at Flow, I was like, I got to get better. I got to change something about what I'm doing. I'm going to start going to the RTC more often. And I was there, once a week. I think I would go on Wednesday maybe, like whatever day that worked out best for me. And I'd go in, I'd work with Mike because he was helping. He was like technically the RTC coach at the time. And, we started working on stuff, and I wouldn't say I was training like a college guy, but I wanted to be held to that standard so that when I got to college wrestling, when I wrestled the good high school guys, I was more prepared. I want to start getting treated like a college guy.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I'm trying to remember what year. So who was the 25, 33 pounder for Cornell at that point in time?
It was like Mark Gray, Nashon, Dalton Macri. I remember wrestling Dalton Macri. He was so nice guy, but so mean when you wrestled.
What about Nashon? He liked you up when you were in high school?
Nashon? This is actually a really funny story. So I used to come and wrestle with him a lot, and like I thought we were going live. And it was like maybe my sophomore year, like end of my sophomore year, So it's going into my first cadet worlds. And like we're wrestling. I'm like, man, I'm doing good. It was right after he took third at Nationals his freshman year, I think. Maybe it was his sophomore year. And my dad's like, hey, I want you to like go live with him. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, what? I'm going to go live. Let's go live then. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. And we don't like a 3 minute go, and he just like beat me to no end, like pulling my shirt over my face, and then would pull it off my face and double leg me before I could like understand. He really like beat me bad.
That's funny.
I was talking to my dad. I'm like, I suck. I'm like, shame about it. I'm like, I suck. Like, how am I ever going to be good? And my dad's like, listen, you're 15. You wrestle 120. That dude was third in the country at 125 in college. Like, you got to get better, but like, you just need more time.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's something I understood more like as I was in the college position now. It's hard to be good when you're in high school because you just don't have that same like physical maturity that those college guys have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like I didn't really get that when I was younger, but that was a really funny story. He like really beat me bad.
That is funny because I've had, obviously my high school kids, I do private lessons with them, and they don't ever really realize when I'm going live. And there's always that one point when they're a senior and they're like, well, you've been going live the whole time, right? And I'm like, no, that was like 40%, or maybe I try a couple times, but I don't really try the whole time. And then they say, okay, how about you really try now? And then you give them the beat down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too funny. Okay, so towards the end of your high school career, I think you didn't wrestle for the whole last year of your high school career, right? You have double elbow surgery or one elbow?
Both of them.
But oh god, both elbows. How'd you wipe your butt?
I had to do one surgery at a time. But okay, so I was in practice in like the middle of December, my senior year.
Okay.
I was wrestling with another kid. I literally just collar tied him like this, and then my elbow went like, and I was like, whoa, that didn't feel good. But I had like elbow pain a lot growing up, and this was probably a little stupid on my part. But I just was like, oh, I must be being a baby.
So you think you heard it like when you were younger or something?
So we found out later. So I see a doctor. We figure out that my elbow's broke, and they're like, all right, hey, we're gonna get you in for surgery. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, I've done 1 million collar ties in my life. Like, and the surgeon was saying how a lot of times they'll see with athletes, it's from overuse at a young age, which I don't think, because like, I'm not really known for having big arms to begin with. But they were saying also sometimes it's a genetic thing, not like a genetic defect, but it's like your elbow, your growth plate. I pretty much broke my growth plate off is what happened to me. That's the bone that I broke. And they're saying sometimes your growth plate is supposed to close flat, but it'll close with little holes in them. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that those holes can get weakened because your tricep tendon like webs over that bone. So if you use your tricep, you can start pulling on that fracture. And what they thought might have happened is when I collar tied, it was like the final pull that broke it.
Gross. That's disgusting.
Crazy. And then, so I'm like, man, if that's the case, like, we should look at my other one. Like, she was just like, hey, it's a thought, like, take it for what it is. And I'm like, well, then we should try this one. And when they x-rayed that one, they're like, same deal. It's got a bunch of fractures in it. It's probably going to break. We don't know when. So you can get it fixed now or just when it breaks. And I was like, well, it's only going to get more valuable in my wrestling career.
Yeah.
As well get it fixed now. And after that, I had to kind of let my high school season go. And
absolutely. So, I mean, just when people watch you, they can tell you love wrestling. How terrible was it to be 17 or 18 years old and having to sit out for 6 months, something like that?
It was like 4.
4 months.
And it sucked. My knee was honestly worse because this is like really stupid, but so I had elbow surgery and like you have to wait for the stitches to close before you can do anything. But once the stitches closed, I would literally just be in the room with my elbow, like, because they want you moving it.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Motion. So like I can't bear any weight, but I can just try and get this back. So I'd be in the room doing my little range of motion, and then once I had enough that I could like do this, I'd be doing like stance and motion for like 20 minutes. Just I wouldn't shoot because I was afraid and hit my arm, so I would just move around in my stance, like fake, level change, elbow pat, like just shadow wrestle myself, for a lot. So that I kind of kept myself busy with that, and then once I could do more rehab, that kind of kept me occupied. But it was so terrible. I hated it. Like I missed out on like a state tournament. I missed out on the junior world trials because of something related to my elbow. I went to the open, couldn't go to the trials. And, all this stuff going on. And I'm like, man, this sucks. And then I was just like, just get ready for college, get ready for college, get ready for college. And that was kind of what like got me through it,
Absolutely. Well, yeah, of course. Shit really doesn't hurt. I mean, you'd be on the mat. So your freshman year, I guess outstanding, right? Your true freshman year, no red shirt. You get in there. We don't have to go through every match. We don't have the time for that. But you end up winning a national title over, really if you go quarters, semis, finals, 3, really. That bracket, 141, was a really, really good bracket that year. I guess what were you thinking about going into the tournament? Was it like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to wrestle Dean Heil in the quarters? Or was it just like, I'm going to take everybody out. They're all done.
So, like in my own head, I was just like, especially when the draw came out, I was like, whatever. Like I'm going to, not like, oh, I'm better than these guys, but it was like, the plan was to beat them anyway. It's just which ones do I have to wrestle till they get there,
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I know some people get more bent out of shape about their draw than others, but for me, it's like one thing that my dad's told me my whole life, and the coaches here say the same thing pretty much. If your plan's to win, the draw shouldn't matter because your goal is to be better than everybody anyway. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was just like, which guys do I have to get ready for? And it was like, Heil, Ironman, and then whoever comes out of the other side came out of the other side. So it worked out to be Meredith. But, you know, it was exciting because it worked out where, like, Heil was kind of the guy coming into that year. And when I was in high school, like, he was the man at that weight. So it was like, I get to wrestle, like, the guy.
Because he would have won 2 national titles while you were still in high school.
Yeah, he went 3-1-1.
Yes.
So I'm like, I get Heil, I get Ironman, who's the one guy who had beat me the whole year.
Yep.
And then on the other side, I had McKenna, who was junior world silver, or probably Meredith, who was the number 1 seed. So I knew I was going to have, you know, 3 matches that I really wanted. And, you know, so I was just looking forward to that and get ready for that.
And so then you tore your ACL in the quarters of the quarters.
Quarters, literally right in the.
Damn.
That was crazy.
So if you told the story many times, you don't have to tell it, but the story you tell about, you know, them looking at, have you told that? It's pretty funny. Can you tell that?
Yeah. So I hurt my knee, and I like, you don't think about it in the match. You got adrenaline pumping, like everyone's screaming the whole deal. You're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm being a baby. Wrestle my match out. I steal a takedown late and win that match. I run over and I like jump into Mike Gray's arms, and like if you look at it, you're like, he's not putting his feet on the ground. Like I got my knees up to my chest, and they're like, that's kind of weird. So like, what's happening is like, I'm like, yeah, that was great, you know, whatever. And then I'm like, my knee hurts really bad, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna put you down in a second, but don't tell anybody. And I was like, oh. So he like puts me down slowly, and I'm like, yeah, get my hand raised, whatever. Walk off the mat, and literally right after that, I get an interview by one of the ESPN guys, and they're like, oh, you know, you seem to have tweaked your knee in that match. I was like, nope, I'm fine, nothing's wrong, good. I'm a terrible liar, so it probably looked obvious. I go to the back, and our trainer, Chris Scarlotta, he's awesome. He's looking at my knee, and I guess to do an ACL check, you bend their knee at a 90-degree angle, and you do this with it, and it's supposed to go like click, click, and mine went like click, slide, and he was like, ooh, and just put my knee down. And he kind of, like, we had this moment where he's looking at me and I'm looking at him, and he's trying to figure out if I want to know or not, and I just was like, don't tell me. Okay, like, I trust you. I was like, I don't want to know. I feel like I might have even been like, I don't care if I, like, blew my knee out, don't tell me. And he was like, okay, because you did. But, like, didn't say that to me, you know. And I wrestled my semis. You know, they tape me up all good. I'm like, hey, can I just get taped up? And they're like, yeah, whatever you need. But he's like, good thing we're taping him. You know what I mean? Taped me up, did a great job. I felt good for my semis. You know, I adrenaline and, you know, take a bunch of Advil and get through that one. I wake up the morning of the finals, and I was like, man, my knee is so sore. And I'm like, I must really just be like, I don't know what's up with me. I must just be a huge baby right now. Like, I'm fine. I'm walking around. I do my workout at like 2 o'clock. And, like, I have a hard time bending past 90 degrees. And, like, I can't really hit my knee to shoot. And Mike, my coach, was like, dude, what's up with you? Because he didn't know either. They didn't tell him either.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I don't – because he's, like, my guy. So this is really interesting. And I kind of don't – in hindsight, I thought it was a good idea. They're like, we didn't want to tell Mike – because we wanted him to coach you exactly how he does every other match. I can appreciate, because it's a smart move, and you know he's not stupid either. Mike, he was like, all right, clearly something's wrong with your knee. We're gonna get it loose. So I ended up just riding the bike, doing like level changes, squat, just like getting my leg looser. Ice, Advil, you know, heat, ice all day. Tape it up again. Finals come. It's like really hard, you know.
Yeah.
To come there, you hear the lights, or you see the lights, hear the sounds, everyone's screaming. It's one mat, everyone's watching you. There's so much adrenaline going, you're like, I can do anything for 7 minutes right now. Get through that match, and, you know, I win, and I walk off the mat, and this is actually really funny. So my dad meets you down there, gives me a hug, and, you know, we're walking back up to, like, the stands where all the Cornell people are, and there's, like, those box seats that, like, for us, a lot of the, like, alumni sit there. And they're like, man, what you did with your knee, that's something special. I'm like, what?
Wait, how did they know?
From Coach Cole. Like, literally told them. So Coach Cole walked. This is really funny. He literally walked in there and was like, hey, he tore his ACL, but he doesn't know it. And then I walked. Oh, my gosh. And they're like, man, what you did is crazy, all this stuff. And I'm looking at Chris, and I'm like, hey, like, can you tell me what happened now? Because Everyone else knows. And he's like, yeah, you tore your ACL.
Oh my God.
No way. I like didn't believe him.
Damn.
You know, and then I got an MRI. And I'm like, hey, like, how torn do you think it is? He's like, I can't really tell by this, but it looks like pretty bad. And I remember getting the MRI, and they're like, you have no ACL. It's gone.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, ooh. So I got that fixed. And, like, he got, like, our trainers and our coaches got, like, heat for letting me wrestle.
They did?
People were like, why would you let him wrestle? He could have got hurt worse. I would have rather just gotten hurt worse than figured it out. It's national tournament. Like, you only get 4 of those in your whole life. And at that point, it was already torn. It's like, whatever. If I get any worse, like...
Yeah, it's not like you're going to die from your knee, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, if I tore my LCL too, like, okay, then I would have forfeited out, which would have been exactly what would have happened anyway. Yeah. I would have got the surgery, and I would have been out for about the same time. So, you know, I don't know. I try to be really outspoken that I thought they handled it great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we don't have too much time left. So I'm gonna skip. I'm gonna kind of go fast forward here because I know I want to ask you about this, and I'm gonna be totally honest with you. You win a second NCAA title. You're going to the U.S. Open, and listen, I'm a Yianni fan. I want to pick Yianni to win the U.S. Open, but at the same time, I just saw you have really, really close matches with Jaden and Joey McKenna. Who they're good. They are absolutely right. But then I remember in the back of my mind, Zain killed everyone last year, right? And so I'm like, well, how can I justify picking Yianni to win the U.S. Open when Zain did that to everyone at the weight class above him? And then obviously we have Jordan Oliver, we have Frank Molinaro, we have all these other people, right? And so I didn't pick you. That's honestly, okay? So
I don't think anyone really.
Well, a few people did. So then you come out, and I mean, you, frankly, I don't think I've ever seen anybody dominate either Molinaro or Jordan Oliver like that, and you did both of them. And then you beat Zain in the finals. I mean, I kind of just asked you this, but like, what clicked or what was different? Because if I watch, and this is me being honest, if I watch Yianni NCAAs and I watch Yianni US Open, I'm thinking like, those are like 2 different people. I mean, holy moly.
I mean, I go back and watch the matches I wrestled at NCAAs now, and it's like, what was wrong with me? But I think it was a combination of a lot of things. So I was coming back from knee surgery where I wasn't even wrestling live until, you know, late September or late October, early November. So I definitely think a lot of that was getting my timing back and getting back into wrestling. And then the other thing that this is 100% my fault, I got really fat after I had knee surgery.
Okay.
And it made the weight cut really hard because, you know, I had too much fat on my body, and I'm not going to say I was too big for the weight because I wasn't, but I weighed too much. And because of that, I was cutting down, getting back up, cutting down. And, you know, that's kind of hard on your body after a while.
Yeah.
And I started developing these bad habits because I felt bad, all the time. So I'd wrestle and, you know, not do a ton, get through the match. Like, if it was someone not that good, you know, I'd wrestle, pin them, like, get off the mat, you know, and just try and, like, get through the match. And I think I developed some bad habits that way, you know what I mean? And then
sure. I mean, it's cool that you can be that honest about it. Most people would never cop to that.
Yeah, ever. I mean, it's 100% my fault. It wasn't like I was too big. I'm 150 pounds right now, you know what I mean? I didn't do a good job, you know. I got fat after I got hurt, and that's my fault. And then what happened was I had a good 6-week break of no competition, no weigh-in, nothing, from NCAAs to the U.S. Open. And a lot of people like to take that time off. I took, a couple of days off, and I continued to, like, keep my weight down, but I was eating right. So there was a period of time where I gained a little weight. But then what happened was I was eating healthy, and I started drinking a lot of water, working out really hard, and fat was coming off, and I got lighter. You know, coming into the U.S. Open, I was, definitely leaner than I was at any point during the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I trained really hard. I had 6 weeks of just getting ready for that. Anthony Askren came here, and a couple more Rutgers guys, like Ilias was here too, and they're training with me. Went back. I wrestled this kid, Dylan Williams, who was Canada's 65-kilo rep. He left, came back. More Canadian guys came in, like their 74-kilo rep. So I had all of these different guys coming in that were pushing me and challenging me while I'm doing a good job getting my weight down too. So I think it was a combination of, short answer, I think I was always about that good, but I never did the right things to feel that good. So I got myself in great shape. I had great partners, and I got my weight under control. And then I think it manifested itself at the Open,
Yeah. No, That's a great way to put it, and I love that you're honest enough to say that that you were fat and that was what was causing you some issues, because most people they wouldn't admit that. Okay, I don't want to get too deep into the Zain Final X topic. I know you don't really want to talk about it that much. Just give us the last thing. Just give us the update. I mean, you told me that there's an arbitration process. You don't know what's going to happen. I think it's coming up fairly soon, if I remember right. I know you said it was delayed one time. Just give us that little thing, and then we'll let you get on your way.
So it was scheduled for last Friday, supposedly, and then they pushed it back, which I guess isn't weird. Like that's a thing that happens. And now it's scheduled for the 29th. I've never been a part of anything like this before, and I don't think a lot of people have really seen stuff like this before. So I don't have a great idea for the time frame, but they say about a week, maybe less, maybe a little more. Could be as short as a day to make their decision. It could be as long as over a week. But as soon as they make that decision, there's pretty much three outcomes. I can lose and Zane's the rep. I could win, and then they decide that I won match 2, and it's 1-1. We wrestle match 3 at a different location. Or they could decide that they're going to throw away match 2, call like an illegitimate match, and then it's 1-0 Zayn, and I have to win 2 straight, or he's got to win 1 for the spot. And then that wrestle-off gets decided by the arbitrator, which is essentially the judge, to my understanding. And all that we're allowed to do is say, like Zayn can be like, I have the Pan Am Games, so it can't be this weekend. And I could be like, well, I'm wrestling in Poland, so it can't be that weekend. And then USA Wrestling is like, well, the last date that you're allowed to wrestle is this day. And then pretty much the arbitrator is like, okay, this is my range of days, and we're going to go with this date. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, sucks to suck, then you don't get to wrestle. So I think that's, to my understanding, that's the process. And I should find out, first or second week of August, pretty much, about what they decide. Okay, so it's coming soon.
It's only a month from Worlds. I mean, that's a challenging position they're putting you in, obviously. Okay, well, that's all I got for you. I didn't want to steal too much of your time. I appreciate you coming on. Maybe in the future we can get you on again at some point in time. You got any last words for people, Yianni fans?
No, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah. I could talk with you all day. We went 43 minutes. It felt like 10. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We appreciate it, and you have a great day, Yianni.
Yep, you too.
Peace.